Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Maniacal Mini. So today we are going to continue our episodes of the Nighthaunt Series. This is going to be episode 3, which is going to focus on the wood, the leather, and the metallics on the Nighthaunt. So as always, we're going to start out with contrast just to get your models on the table quick, and that way they're popping, looking good. But we are also going to show you how to step up a couple of steps to make them stand out just a little bit more of a parade quality style of painting than normally, but we are going to wrap it all up neatly with our weathering episode. So, we've been painting them this whole time, little bit at a time, focusing on different things. We're going to tie all those things together in the weathering series, and then that's going to be the end of that, the Nighthaunt. But I do think I'm going to have a special episode that we're going to do. I'm just trying to work out the logistics if it has to be 2 episodes or not, because I think it might be a big project, so I think it might have to go into 2 episodes, because I don't want to make them 40 minutes, one episode. I think that's a little ridiculous as far as time, so I think we'd end up splitting it probably into either 2 or 3 maybe, depending on how much detail we go into, but I'll keep you posted on that on Instagram if you guys check that. I just want to thank you guys so much for all the support that you've shown for this series so far. It kind of lets me know that I'm heading in the right direction, if that makes sense, because the more support that you guys show, the more views, the more likes, the more visits to the website, all that stuff. It kind of lets me know, all right, well, we don't want to do that stuff that we were doing anymore. The new changes are kind of everybody's kind of liking them so far, so we're going to keep going with that, for the foreseeable future. If we need to make some more changes or adjustments, if anybody has any suggestions, I'm always open to them. Just leave them in the comments below. That's super helpful. But I don't want to keep you guys too much longer from the video, but I do want to say again, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you at the end. All right, bye. Alright guys, so starting out fresh here, we're working on the wood. We are going to start out with dark wood from Army Painter. Super awesome speed paint from their speed paint line. I like this one a lot. I've stuck to wildwood to base coat most of my wood. This is pretty comparable. I like this one a lot more, I think, because it dries a little bit more matte than the wildwood does from Games Workshop, which I find really nice. It's one of the reasons why I really like the instant colors from Scale 75, because all of theirs are really matte as well. It just adds a lot to the model when you finish it, especially when you get like the perfect setup with the zenithal, and you're dropping some Nuln Oil just in the recesses and getting that nice kind of shade everywhere, and then you're starting to apply the contrast and the paint on top of that, and everything just plays together so well. Like all the cloth just comes out satin because of that look. It's just everything ties together really nicely. So I highly recommend checking out the Scale 75 Instant Color and the Army Painter Speed Paint range. Really awesome so far from what I've seen. So we're gonna move right into the highlight though. We're gonna do simple, real quick highlights with these. We're not gonna, like we said, we're not winning prizes, but we want it to look super nice and super good when it hits the table. We want to be able to see all those details. So I'm kind of keeping this to, like I said, a thicker glaze. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to avoid hitting those recesses. I want to keep it to the utmost raised areas, all that good stuff. And I want to kind of leave at least a tint of that darkness underneath from that dark wood that we put down from that Army Painter. And this is going to be a really nice color for it. So we're going to keep following through with that all over this ore. We're just sticking, like I said, to the utmost raised areas, and just following through really nicely. Don't overload your brush. Keep things nice and smooth, all right? All right, moving into the leather now, and this is where we're going to bring in another Army Painter speed paint. That is going to be the hardened leather speed paint, and I like this one a lot as well. It isn't as dark as, say, like Snakebite leather is from Contrast Paints. It also kind of reminds me of, if anybody does use the instant colors from Scale 75, it reminds me a lot of the Endurance brown that's in that brown set. It's kind of lighter. It's almost got, some paler tones to it, so it doesn't get those deep, rich leathers. So this is more of like a lighter fantasy leather, which is nice in certain situations. And the reason that I'm using it when I want to kind of stick to darker colors and stuff like that is I have a feeling that when we start putting all the enamels and everything on top of all this, it's going to play really nicely off of that really light leather look. So I'm going to stick with that. And, we're going to see what happens. If it looks like doo-doo, then that's what it'll be, and we'll know for next time. But I think it's going to turn out pretty cool. But the only time we're going to be able to tell is in the next video. So we'll find out. We'll find out. But we are going to move right into the Xandri dust, and as you can see, I'm just putting that. I'm doing a edge highlight with it. I'm not going crazy. I'm not putting it anywhere else. It is a very light color, but it does look really cool as that edge highlight. It's going to make it pop out just that little bit extra, because that leather is also a lighter color. This is going to be a really nice look for the edge highlight. It's going to make it pop out a little bit more on the table. So I'll leave you guys here to watch for a sec. We'll pick it up in another step in a minute. All right, moving into the metals now. This is going to be a fun one. I tested this out already on a different model just to make sure everything looked right, and it looks really, really cool. So we're going to actually take Necro Gold from the Scale 75 Gold's metal set. This is a kind of like it's almost just like a bronzy, like a dark bronzy gold kind of. It's kind of hard to explain, but I really dig it on the gold for these models. And I mean, it's Necro Gold. You can't really find a more fitting gold to put down for these kind of models, and you can't deny that it does look really, really cool here, and especially when we're going to do put some of the shades over on top of that, and we're going to come back through and give a little bit of highlights on these. You're going to see just how much they pop towards the end of the video. It's going to look really, really cool. So as you can see, I'm just being really light. I'm not overloading, trying to be really careful around those edges so we don't hit anything that we laid over before. But here's what I was talking about. We're going to come in with that Syrupum Sepia, from the ink from Games Workshop, one of their shades. I have been reading about some of the controversy where they have changed some of the recipe for the Holy Trinity, as it's called. I still have a lot of the original. I'm not bragging. I just had a couple of bottles of each one, luckily stashed away, so I haven't had a chance to test them out yet. Once I get to that point though, and I have to, I'm sure I'm gonna notice the difference because I use them really regularly. So I'm kind of scared, because if they've messed with some of them, it kind of throws off, how I paint. So that might change a few things about, the painting style for how we do things going forward. We might have to find some solutions around that or make our own stuff, which will be a fun video. But as you can see, I'm coming through now with the black metal. That's going to be for all the chains that are hanging off of him. He's got some shackles on him. You can see he has got that back brace on. That's also on the Spirit Torments, if you guys are familiar with a lot of the Nighthaunt stuff. There's like cage that goes around him. I'm not going to paint that into this video. I'm just going to focus on the chains so we can get kind of a clear picture of what we're going for with this whole ore. I want that whole area to look complete because I want you guys to be able to see like what it's going to look like all together when it's done. And we're gonna, as you can see, I've already, in this shot, you can see that I've painted the rose and the vine all around it. I'm gonna show you guys that at the end of the video, so we'll get to that about what colors I use for that. But as you can see, I'm just being real careful, not overloading my brush too much, and I'm just trying to get as close as I can to that skin around that shackle, and just being really neat, taking my time, just going real slow, guys. We're not in a rush here. We're just trying to go through. Although we're using contrast paints, we're going quick. There's some things you don't want to skip around and rush. So as you can see, I'm taking some of that Nuln Oil I'm going to put that down all over the chains, all over the shackles that he's got on his arm. Where, you know, as you can see, I'm just trying it off. I think I had a little bit too much on my brush here. But so I'm going to try and, you know, seep some of that off because I had a little bit too much. But I'm just going to let it go on nice and tight. I'm not going to let it pool too much in those recesses. I just kind of want to reestablish those shadows that we had set up with, you know, the oil wash that we had put on originally. I want to kind of reestablish those blacks in, you know, those deep recesses in the metal, especially with that Nuln oil. It's going to kind of dull down the shine of that metal as well, which we're going to reestablish in the next step that's coming up here. Once this all dries, as you can see, I'm going right into the metal steel here. I was just letting these sit on those. The Nuln oil I had actually used so it actually kind of just speeded it up a little of the video when I was showing the leather and stuff like that. That's just Nazdrag yellow contrast paint. I am not going to do any further steps. As you can see here, I had established that, you know, oil wash really well. So the cool thing about yellow, this Nazdrag yellow, is as long as you are controlling it really well, you're moving it around into where it needs to be, you're not going to get a lot of those tide marks. But even still, you still are gonna get a couple of them, because let's face it, it's a big, you know, spread out area. You're trying to put this ink over the top of it, you're gonna end up with some tide marks. But the cool thing is, with our style of painting and the grimdark style, that dirtiness adds to it. So we're gonna compound on top of that and make it even more interesting to look at. Once we speckle it with some dust, we speckle it with some you know, some mud and some dirt and stuff like that, you're gonna see just how cool that comes out when we start getting to all the weathering steps. And as you can see here, just painting that vine, that's something as simple as Creed Camo contrast paint. You can use any kind of green contrast paint. You know, the brighter, obviously, just, you know, it's going to look a little bit more comic-y. So if you're following the rest of the steps, it might look a little bit jarring when you finish it. So we're going for this kind of muted kind of green, especially once we put the enamels and stuff over on top of it. It's going to kind of darken it down, and you're going to see some changes to the actual, you know, composition of the colors and the tones and everything like that, which is going to be really cool. So as you can see, I'm just going to follow that whole vine all the way down. Like I said, I just wanted to show you guys the whole process of how we got it to that point at the end of the video, so that you can see like, oh, okay, that's how, you know, the vines were done, the roses were done, in what order everything was done, you know, so that we can avoid messing things up, having to go back over, because I'll be honest with you, I wish I could put out my videos uncut. They'd be too long, but I rarely have to go back over because of the order. Don't get me wrong, there's times where I screw up and I have to completely, you know, sonic clean my entire model because I messed it up that bad. So nobody's perfect. I'm not saying I'm the most perfect, but there's a particular order that you can go in that will completely stop you from having to retouch up or redo areas, as long as you kind of keep a little bit steady of a hand. But as you can see, I'm just touching up those roses. I got some Blood Angels red contrast paint, one of my favorite reds. I have all the new contrast paints in as well, so we're gonna test out those in a future video. I know that we have a lot of videos that we want to get to, but I have them all written down on a schedule, so hopefully we'll get to them one day. But that's going to wrap this one up, guys. Like I said, we have a couple more videos in this series, so I really appreciate all the love again. Thank you guys so much. I want to say, if you are not a subscriber, please consider subscribing, supporting the channel a little bit, helping us kind of, you know, reach where we want to get to.